first time I heard the sound, I thought it was rain. Just a single drop striking the driver's side window. A soft, wet slap. I kept driving. Route 9 was empty that night. The kind of empty that feels deliberate. No other headlights. No houses. Only black forest pressing close to the road. Then the sound came again. Slap. Not a tap. Not a raindrop. Something heavier. Something deliberate. I glanced at the glass. A handprint was pressed against the window. It appeared slowly, like moisture gathering from nowhere. 5 long fingers. A wide palm. The outline was translucent, coated with a slick film that glistened under the passing streetlights. At first I thought someone had touched the window from outside, but I was driving 60 miles an hour, and there was no one on the road. The print stayed there. Perfect. Wet. And it didn't drip. I turned on the wipers even though they wouldn't reach the side window. My brain just needed to do something. Anything. The handprint remained. Clear and bright, like something from the ocean, and just pressed against the glass. I rolled the window down a crack to wipe it with my sleeve. The moment the air touched my face, I smelled it. Salt. Not road salt. Ocean salt. Thick. Briny. Rotting. I rolled the window back up immediately. The handprint didn't smear. It didn't fade. If anything, it became clearer, almost as if it had settled deeper into the glass. That's when I saw him, standing beside the road ahead. A hitchhiker. He hadn't been there before. I was sure of that. One moment the road was empty. The next moment he stood in the shoulder's dim light. Tall. Thin. Wearing a dark coat that clung to him as if it were soaked. His head was slightly tilted, like someone listening underwater. I slowed without thinking. People always say you shouldn't pick up strangers at night. But the road was deserted and the temperature outside had dropped below freezing. Besides, he looked calm, too calm. When I pulled over, he didn't wave or speak. He simply opened the passenger door and slid into the seat. The door closed with a heavy thud. And the air changed. The inside of the car instantly felt damp. Not humid like summer weather. Damp like the inside of a cave. Like the air had been underwater a moment ago and had only just surfaced. I adjusted the heater. The vents blew warm air. But the temperature kept falling. My breath began to fog in front of me. Neither of us spoke. I glanced at him. His clothes were dark and glossy, like they were permanently wet. Drops of moisture slid from his sleeves onto the floor mat. They didn't behave like water. They were thicker. Almost oily. "Where are you headed?" I asked. He didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the windshield. The silence stretched longer than it should have. Then, slap, another wet strike against the driver's window. My entire body flinched. A second handprint appeared, right beside the first. Fresh, glistening. The hitchhiker hadn't moved. His hands were resting on his knees, yet the prints looked exactly like his. Long fingers, wide palm, translucent. I forced a nervous laugh. "Did you touch the window earlier?" No answer. The cabin felt heavier, like the air had weight. Moisture began to collect along the dashboard, tiny droplets forming across the steering wheel. Across the pedals, the inside of the windshield fogged over as if the car had plunged into a deep lake. My stomach tightened. I turned the defroster to maximum. The fog didn't clear. Instead, it spread. The temperature dropped further. The digital thermometer read 34 degrees Fahrenheit inside the cabin. Impossible. The heater was blasting, and yet the air felt like it came from the bottom of the ocean. I glanced again at the handprints. They were moving, not sliding, pulsing, very slowly. The moisture within them expanded and contracted, like a heartbeat. My heart began racing, and then I noticed something worse. The condensation dripping from the prints wasn't water. It was thicker. The droplets left faint trails that shimmered under the dashboard lights. Some instinct told me I needed to know what it was. I pulled a tissue from the glove compartment and pressed it against the glass. The liquid soaked through instantly. Cold shot through my fingers, a deep, penetrating cold. Not freezing, something biological, like touching living tissue. I stared at the damp spot on the tissue. The fluid had a faint bluish tint, and it moved. Microscopic threads inside the liquid slowly curled and stretched like tiny worms reacting to light. I dropped the tissue. "What is that?" I whispered. The hitchhiker finally turned his head. His eyes were dark. Too dark. Not black. Just depthless. Like looking into deep water at night. He didn't speak, but the handprints pulsed again. Slower this time. And my heart matched the rhythm. I felt it immediately. My pulse syncing with the movement on the glass. Thump. Pulse. Thump. Pulse. A strange calm settled over me. A dangerous calm, like drifting downward in deep water. My grip on the steering wheel loosened. The road ahead blurred. I realized something terrifying. The handprints weren't just marks. They were watching, sensing. The liquid film was alive. Each pulse sent a faint vibration through the window and into my hands, into my bloodstream, into my nervous system. The hitchhiker leaned slightly closer, not threatening, just waiting. Then I understood. He wasn't asking for a ride. He was inviting me somewhere beneath the surface. The road ahead sloped downward toward a dark valley where a river crossed under the highway. The water glimmered faintly in the moonlight. The handprints pulsed faster. My heart followed. Thump, pulse, thump, pulse. The cabin temperature dropped again, 28 degrees. Frost formed along the edges of the windshield, but the wet handprints remained warm, alive. The hitchhiker raised one finger and gently tapped the glass. Tap. The handprints responded instantly. They brightened, expanded, like they had been waiting for a signal. My breathing slowed. A strange thought entered my mind. Driving felt unnecessary. The river looked calm, deep, quiet. Submerging suddenly seemed natural, peaceful, like returning somewhere familiar. The hitchhiker watched me with patient interest, not cruel, not hungry, just observant. The car drifted slightly toward the shoulder, toward the bridge railing. Then something snapped inside my mind. I slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a stop in the middle of the road. My heart pounded wildly, breaking the rhythm. The pulsing handprints stuttered. For a second, the connection weakened. The hitchhiker tilted his head again, studying me, almost curious. I shoved the door open and stumbled out in the freezing night air. Fresh air flooded my lungs, dry, clean, real. I looked back into the car. The hitchhiker remained seated exactly where he had been. He didn't try to follow. He simply watched. The handprints slowly faded from the glass, but the moisture inside the cabin remained thick and cold. After several long seconds, the passenger door opened. He stepped out. His coat dripped onto the pavement. The liquid sizzled slightly against the cold asphalt. Without a word, he walked down the road toward the darkness beyond the bridge. Within moments, he vanished into the night. I stood there shaking for nearly 10 minutes before I finally got back in the car. The air inside was still damp, but warmer now. The handprints were gone. Just faint streaks where moisture had been. I drove home slowly. I didn't stop anywhere, didn't speak to anyone. When I reached my apartment, I locked every door and tried to convince myself it had been exhaustion, stress, imagination, but the smell of salt still clung to my clothes. I went to the bathroom to wash my hands, and that's when I saw it. A faint mark on my palm, 5 translucent streaks forming the outline of a handprint. Not mine. The skin felt cool, almost numb, and beneath the surface of the mark, something pulsed gently. Once, twice, matching the slow rhythm of my heart. Over the next few days, I searched online for similar stories. At first I thought I was the only one. Then I found the reports. Drivers across different highways describing the same thing. A hitchhiker, a wet handprint, a sudden drop in temperature. Some of them had crashed into rivers. Others claimed they escaped like I did, but every survivor described the same final detail. The mark appearing later on their skin. Researchers who studied samples from the residue found something impossible. The liquid wasn't water. It was a complex organic secretion, a living membrane, one capable of sensing heat, pressure, and heartbeat rhythms. A biological interface, something designed to attach to hosts, and the sightings were spreading. More highways, more drivers, more handprints appearing on glass across the country. At first I believed the hitchhiker had failed with me, that I had escaped. But tonight I learned the truth. The mark on my palm has grown larger. It now covers the center of my hand. The skin feels damp even when dry. And every few minutes, it pulses, slow, heavy, like something breathing through me. I think I understand now. The hitchhiker wasn't trying to drown me. He was planting something, a bridge, between the road and something deeper. Because tonight while driving home, I heard the sound again. Slap. A wet hand striking the driver's side window. But this time, the print appeared on the inside of the glass.